30 people are killed and dozens wounded in the explosion of a booby-trapped car in Hama. Our armed forces continue to chase the terrorists, killing and wounding large numbers of them. And the terrorist acts of detonating booby-trapped cars caused the death and the wounding of dozens of people in Iraq. Welcome to News Bulletin. I'm Dania Nizam. 30 citizens were killed and dozens were critically wounded when a suicidal terrorist detonated a lorry carrying 1.5 tons of explosives at the eastern entry of Hama near al-Salamiyeh. The explosion took place in an area full of vehicles while a lorry full of gas cylinders was passing by. This caused damage to more than 20 cars and several shops and houses. The 9 people abducted by the terrorist gangs in Aleppo countryside since May last year arrived at Beirut International Airport. They were received with popular and official celebrations. The liberated Lebanese citizens came in a special plane accompanied by the Director General of Security in Lebanon. At the same time, a Qatari plane carried the 2 abducted Turkish pilots from Lebanon after they were released. A large number of Lebanese officials welcomed their fellow citizens. They included the Ministers of Internal and Foreign Affairs, Marwan Sharbel and Adnan Mansour, in addition to the relatives of the liberated citizens. In Damascus countryside, units of the Syrian Arab army attacked terrorist groups in several villages, including in Nabik and Adra areas, killing and wounding many of them and destroying the equipments they used in their crimes. In Homs, the Syrian armed forces attacked terrorist groups in the area of al-Nusra, killing and wounding many of them and destroying their weapons. Mohammed Miraya, a citizen from Aleppo, told the TV news about his abduction by terrorists who detained and tortured him for 2 months. They tried to use him in detonating a booby-trapped car full of explosives near a roadblock manned by the Syrian army in Idlib. The international envoy to Syria, Mr. al-Akhdar al-Ibrahimi, asserted that violence in Syria should be stopped as soon as possible through a full ceasefire. He pointed out that the UN would hold a meeting for the Russians, Americans and the other permanent members of the UN Security Council in Geneva. Other Arab countries will also be invited to this conference. Mr. Ibrahimi stressed the importance of exerting efforts by all parties to end this crisis and to work to build a new Syria. In occupied Palestine, 2 workers were wounded when the Israeli forces of occupation opened fire in the area near Be'er Sheba. At the same time, the Zionists waged a sudden campaign of detentions in several towns and villages in the West Bank. Palestinian sources said the forces of occupation detained 8 Palestinians by storming their houses in Ramallah, Tulkarm, Nablus and Hawara. In Egypt, the period of detaining 38 Muslim brothers was extended by 15 days in order to continue the investigations of the events of attacking the train station near the Faculty of Agriculture in the governorate of al-Qalubiyah. The detained prisoners were accused of joining an illegitimate group and using violence against public property, possessing firearms and bombs in order to disrupt security and public order. Meanwhile, the court of Shabin al-Qum decided to renew the detention of Salah Durra, the Imam of the Islamic Center in Chicago, and Sheikh Badawi al-Bay' of al-Azhar for 45 days under the charge of using violence in Rabi'a and al-Nahda squares. The court also extended the detention of 7 others by 15 days. In Iraq, 8 suicidal terrorists attacked the government office of the town of Rawah in the governorate of al-Anbar in the west and the police station. The attack led to the death of 5 people and the wounding of 52 others, including the government official in Rawah. Iraqi sources said 3 suicidal terrorists were wearing explosive belts and a 4th drove a booby-trapped car. 4 other terrorists attacked a police station and a main roadblock manned by the Iraqi army. The sources said the number of the dead victims could rise because most wounds were critical. The Parliamentary Committee of Security and Defence asserted the existence of information about attempts by terrorists to transfer their chemical weapons from Syria to Iraq, while the Iraqi army foiled the terrorist attempt to infiltrate from Syrian territory to the Iraqi village of Shalan at the border. In Libya, scores of demonstrators marched in the city of Rayan in the southwest, calling for the downfall of the temporary government and setting up an alternative government because it failed to put an end to the security disruption rife throughout the country for more than 2 years. The demonstrators called for voting against the government at the General National Conference. The demonstrators asserted that they would continue their movement and to carry out protest meetings in the capital Tripoli. As the state of chaos continued throughout the country, unknown armed terrorists attacked a police station in Tripoli and kidnapped 2 policemen. The security forces found the 2 kidnapped victims. One of them had a bullet wound in his leg, while the other was beaten and tortured. That concludes our news bulletin for today. It's over to our economic and business news with Vani after the break. If you want more news, you can visit our syriaonline.sy. God bless you and long live Syria.
Good afternoon. The Cabinet approved today the formation of a committee headed by Minister of Economy and composed of representatives from the Ministry of Interior, Trade and Consumers Protection, Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank of Syria and the Craftsmen Union in order to tackle the problems of the craftsmen. The committee will follow up the execution of the proposals made by the concerned parties to re-evaluate the faltered projects in order to reoperate them either by providing easy loans or by partnership investments. The Corporation Directorate at the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Protection showed in a statistic it made that it ratified the internal system of 24 limited companies during last September with a total capital of more than 181 million Syrian pounds. With this, the total number of the registered companies reaches 3,320. The study conducted by the Ministry of Agriculture in cooperation with the General Body of Research and the Directorates of Economy and Marketing focused on improving the competitiveness of canned olive. The study also discussed the added value achieved from manufacturing olive oil in addition to the development in cultivating, processing and storing olive and olive oil, paving the way to find new Arab and international markets for this product. The Agricultural Cooperative Bank amended the prices of some types of locally made and imported fertilizers on the basis of the approval of the Prime Minister and the Economic Commission recommendations for new prices of fertilizers according to the current costs. And now over to some main currencies exchange rates according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. With this, we conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.